Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Welcome again to this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, and by George, I tell you, just had Turkey Day, and I'm just getting down to the point that I think I can survive now. I mean, I had so much turkey in me, and all of a sudden I was quoting turkey. Yeah, that's a heck of a way of starting off a show, isn't it? But in all due respect, folks, hopefully we've taken the time out now and relaxed like I've done. I've relaxed a bit and whatever, and so I'm ready to get back on the road. I'll be right up front with you. We got another 2 years of politics, big time. I'll be right up front with you. Ordinarily, I would have said, okay, fine, let's not talk about Trump this next 2 years, but guess what? We're going to be talking about Trump. That's the only thing that's at the table right now. But what we're going to do here at the Oregon Voters Digest for the next 2 years, we're going to educate you and inform you about what the issues are here within the state of Oregon. I mean, I realize that there's national politics and whatever, but our major focus is going to be here in our state, and that basically involved us. I'm being very selfish about it. I live here in the state of Oregon, and I want a better life here in the state of Oregon. And gee whiz, I want to do some more. I want to do more fishing, and I want to meet more friends. I mean, I just want to go on and on and on. But I'll stop at this point in time. All I'm saying to you is that I'm sure glad you're going to be looking at the Oregon Voters Digest. I know there's a lot of football out there and this, that, and the other, but right up front with you can Google this show on the Oregon, basically through YouTube. You can Google this show on YouTube, 24/7, anytime and whatever. And we're going to have some good, refreshing hosts. We're going to have some co-hosts that will be bringing you issues that will help you, if you will, understand where we are and take some of that raw politics out of it and talk about the betterment of you. We're here within the state of Oregon, because that's what this is all about. It's a beautiful state, all sorts of neat things. But I want you to understand that we're going to be doing this through politics, but the definition of politics from our standpoint, we're going to be educating you and informing you about the solution of the issues that were recently discussed through the election process that's supposed to be over. You hear nobody's talking about it anymore right now. But the fact of the matter is, there's been some different sides and whatever, whether it be the homeless issue, whether it be police, whether it be sanctuary state, whether it be economics, whether it be the fact that the Democrats and Republicans are still in a divided situation. But now here within the state of Oregon, it says that the Democrats basically have the majority of both houses, the House and the Senate, and also the governorship and whatever. What does that mean? But at the end of the day, we all have to eat. We all have to have a place to live, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where we're going to be going. I wanted to throw that out to you on the front end, because we're starting a whole new 2 years, and you're going to see that reflection here at the Oregon Voters Digest. With that, let me open up first by acknowledging the fact that one of our presidents just passed away, George H.W. Bush. And it's just kind of interesting that it's George H.W. Bush. And that's George H. Herbert. And then the other Williams, is that
Walker.
Walker.
Yeah.
He was Walker Bush. But the fact of the matter, he grew up he basically resided in Houston, Texas, but he's from Texas. And it just so happened that's where I grew up when I was going through school and whatever. I grew up in Houston, Texas aspect of it, and knew the Bushes during that particular time. Naturally, I wasn't able to meet him, but the fact of the matter is he grew up there, and it was kind of an interesting piece. But he was quite a president. He really was quite a president. And you can still Google his name and get all of the background about who he is live. I mean, everybody's talking about George H.W. Bush, and then naturally there his son, I think was the 41st, he was the 41st president, and his son was the 43rd. So you can Google these folks. But I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge the fact that typically, like most presidents and whatever, each one of them were very unique, if you will. And so I would suggest that you do that. He was a veteran, and in fact, he was one of the youngest pilot. He was the youngest pilot in World War II during that particular time, and he survived. But yet and still, he came from a very rich background, and he didn't have to do that. But he graduated, got a scholarship. I think it was to Drake or Harvard or one of those prestigious college and whatever. But he decided right after he graduated from high school to join the military. He joined the military and went to pilot school, and he did some 38 mission or so, whatever. Very interesting piece. But then through the years, he was able to do anything he wanted to do because his dad was a elected state official. He was elected state official, and so consequently, he could do anything he wanted to do. But he started, and I'm making that point is that someone gave him the opportunity to get in politics and make it as a career.
I think he was head of CIA there for a while, wasn't he?
Well, he did CIA.
Yeah.
I mean, he had, well, then being that he also worked for Reagan at one point in time.
Vice president, yeah.
Vice president for 8 years, you know what I mean? And so that was quite an asset. Here he was, all he had to do was just sit back and just listen, and he met everybody. And he had this habit. He had this habit of, kind of interesting, ordinarily he has his own staff. And he would use his staff. People would communicate with him, and then they would write the thing, this, that, the other. He would send notes to people. When he'd meet people, he'd send notes. He had a list, and then every so often he would send a note here. Something happened in this country, he'd send them a note. Oh, hi, John, how you been? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Sorry about them. Just George. And then all of a sudden, when he became president, he knew all these folks. And so consequently, that's why he was so effective aspect of it. And then the other thing is that he gave up his presidency, that second term, when he basically countered, when he made that point about no taxes, from a Republican standpoint. But he said, no.
Read my lips one?
Yes, but he said, hey, this country need a tax.
Yeah.
We need to balance the budget. And that's why he did. He gave up his presidency. And I thought it was interesting. He gave up his president for the good of the country. And as a result of that, Clinton, as you know, beat him. And basically Clinton came up and benefited from that. And he came up with the first balanced budget. But that was as a result of George H.W. Bush. And a lot of folks didn't know that. So I'm just saying to you, I can go on and on about this guy, but we're gonna go on and do this other show. But I want you to know you can Google and get some of that same feedback. And I'm sure you can relate to any of us. All the things that he's done. There's no one out there today in our country that came up that's living today, especially the older folks aspect of it, that benefited from him. I mean, he was just a beautiful guy. He was very family oriented. I mean, it was just a beautiful deal. And the time, well, he was 94 years old. 94 years old, and that's sort of a stressful kind of a thing that you normally would get when you get into politics aspect of it. But he had fun. But he was very, very family oriented aspect kind of a guy. And he knew everybody by their first name. Isn't that something? Anybody he met. You know what I'm saying? So it's a timely thing right now because we've had this major divide with this president, with President Trump today. We made him sort of a household name, and it became such a divide between our country at this point in time. So it was a good thing to know about who he was at this time. So hopefully within this next 2 years, we talk about another presidential election. Now we might be able to say, okay, fine, let's deal with the issues. Let's deal with the issues and not get into personality aspect of it for a change. And then whoever wants to run for office, I'm sure there's going to be a major field of folks wanting to run for office. But the fact of the matter is, we got a beautiful country. We want to continue to be that way. And so this might be, I think that's why I'm talking so much about the Bush thing. This gives us an opportunity to relax a bit and get down to solving the problems that we have in this country, because we are the key to this world, as far as I'm concerned. In fact, that's why I wear this tie. We got many cultures, over 100 and some odd cultures here, maybe 100 ties. But for some strange reason, everybody wants to do their own thing. There's only one flag that hangs in this country. It's called the American flag. But it's a contribution to all these other cultures at the same time. And we're sort of getting away from that. But we got to get back to the table because everyone is relying on us. People get educated here and then they go back to their home and they sort of develop. But now all of a sudden it's just the opposite. All kinds of people. Everybody want to do their own thing. But okay, fine. That's it. God bless America. Okay. Well, now let's get into the show. Well, guess what? We're starting off today. I've got a co-host now. As you know, we're going to be. The idea is that we got to interview guests. Our guests are going to be bringing issues that talks to solutions, and we're going to try to get guests in many ways who have run for office, who are sitting in office, who basically are either they're responsible for the issue, or if not that, they brought an issue to the table, but unfortunately it didn't pass. But the fact it was a good issue, and it was one that it basically was a major divide, 50%. It could have gone one way or the other, but based on the money, the other person got elected, and next thing you know, we still are sitting in the same deal. And what I mean by that, something like the sanctuary state kind of a deal. That was a pretty heavy piece aspect of it, and we can go on and on and on. And then the other side of the coin is that besides those kind of guests, we're going to also bring more guest hosts other than myself, having someone else sit in this seat other than myself, and they'll be in other areas, but we're going to bring them to the table because they've got something to share, if you will, towards those issues, solving those issues. Yeah. And today what we got two individuals who are starting this show up. I kind of started it couple shows before.
Couple shows back, yeah.
Couple shows back when I was interviewing these guys for when we were still in the election process. But this is Mark Callahan here to your left, my right. And then we've got a journalist who's now residing in the state of Oregon. And she comes from that area of Congress, I'll put it that way, that area of Congress, Washington, D.C. That's where all of them are. And they tend not to want to identify with the responsibility here. They're all from Washington, D.C. And boy, don't they have problems. They got all kinds of problems aspect of it. But the fact of the matter is we got someone here who's was in journalism, and she's Kurdish, right?
Yes.
She's
originally Kurdish.
Yeah, Kurdish. But she's been.
But I'm American.
She's an American citizen. Yeah, she's American. She's American citizen. Okay, and her name is Naskha Zada.
Yes.
Naskha Zada.
Yeah.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
And she's
Thanks
a journalist.
For having me.
She's got some background. Like I said, we're not going to spend the time. It'll probably take me 2 shows just to go through her resume. So we're just going to kind of cut it somewhat short. But welcome aboard now.
Thank you so much.
Okay, sounds good. And we're going to start off the show talking to an issue that was a major issue here in the state, and that was the whole issue with sanctuary state or the homeless and this, that, and the other. But the idea is that this whole people tend to try to identify it from the standpoint of illegal immigration and things of that nature. But when one opens up the door and says, "Hey, welcome to Oregon," all kinds of folks are coming here. A lot of homeless folks and this, that, and the other, and they're basically saying welcome. And our definition of Oregon is that we got all kinds of folks that are on the street, if you will, and that they get all kinds of benefits and whatever. But we got family members on the street, we got this, we got that, we got drugs, we got this, but it's kind of like an open door. And to the north, we've got Seattle, Washington. We got Washington, and they've got their end, and a sanctuary state. I think they got sanctuary state too there.
I think so, yeah.
And then we got California to the south. They got sanctuary state. And here we had beautiful Portland, Oregon. Beautiful Oregon. I mean, I would always say negative things about Oregon because I didn't want anybody to come here. But now since they've come up with this sanctuary state thing, they're just all coming in. And so we got to do something about that issue because people are just coming over here and taking care of the benefits and this and that. And we got a lot of folks that are not working and having some tough times and this, that, and the other. So that's going to be so the idea is we got to do something about it, and Naskha. I'm talking about her because she comes from Washington D.C. and she's very familiar.
Sanctuary state area, Washington D.C. But
Washington D.C. Yeah. Over at New York, the Big Apple, right?
Yes.
You're in the Big Apple area. That is the Big Apple. See?
It is.
It's the Big Apple. A lot of Big Apple.
Oh, it's a little bit north, yeah.
Yeah, Big Apple. But anyway, welcome aboard.
Hours.
But welcome
Thank you
aboard.
so much.
Okay, good. So what we're going to do today is that there are a number of issues that Mark was bringing to the table. If you can Google some of the shows in the past by just going to YouTube, and you can see us there, and you can see my interviews with him in the past. And he's a well-known guy. He really gets around. I'd still say he's somewhat of a nonpartisan guy. He's a registered Republican, but he's an Oregonian, and he's very familiar with the issues. He's knocked on many doors, and naturally, when you're running for office, you got to go into debates. You got to be able to answer questions and this, that, and the other. And he brings a wealth of knowledge, if you will, to a lot of things. And so I thought we'd start off with sort of an interview, kind of discussion about this sanctuary state for the state of Oregon. He just happened to have been a board member of the sanctuary state, the repeal of the sanctuary state.
Yeah, I'm on the board for Oregonians for Immigration Reform.
Right.
And so we were the group that was pushing the yes vote, advocating a yes vote on Measure 105, which would stop Oregon from being a sanctuary state. It was about 31 years ago that Oregon passed a law. I think it's like 181 A082, I think is what it is, where basically it would prevent Well, the other side claimed it was a profiling law, which it wasn't. It was basically something that would not allow local law enforcement to work with federal law enforcement. Basically, federal law enforcement needed to enforce the immigration laws. Well, I mean, if local law enforcement picked up someone that was here illegally, they couldn't technically communicate, I guess, or provide any resources to the federal government or federal officers to be able to ultimately process that illegal alien and then deport him if necessary. So
now you see that's why we have him here. See, you see how he came in here.
Yes.
You know, he knows I was going a little too long and tried to cut it off, which was good. But my point is that he's got that background, and those are the kind of things we want to talk about, because I've got a definition of what that deal was.
Well, I mean, really, what we were doing with the Yes on 105 campaign was, I mean, it was not about racial profiling. As I said, I mean, racial profiling has a very negative connotation to it.
Well, that started in Portland.
Yeah, exactly.
The profiling started with blacks in Portland.
Well, I mean, it was in Independence back 31 years ago.
Yeah, that's where it started. It started right in Portland, Oregon.
But basically, it's not about racial profiling. It's, I mean, if 105
but they called it racial.
Yeah, exactly.
Because,
if 105 would have passed, then it would basically open up lines of communication between the federal and local officials to be able to process immigration or illegal aliens more effectively, as opposed to providing that wall. Right now, there's the wall, and it's still in place, which is kind of ironic. I mean, the other side is against a wall, but the point is there's a wall or a block or a blockade or something like that against local officials and federal officials actually working with each other in terms of processing illegal aliens or those that are here in our country illegally.
So Bruce, can I?
Sure.
And we also talked about homelessness and people coming here, not just immigrants. It's I've never reported that sanctuary states. Is it just involved immigrants, or can you both define it to me, because it's so confusing?
Good. Well, my definition of it was that everyone has a different definition for it.
Yes.
You know, in the atmosphere of Oregonians, most Oregonians was some, depending if they were living down south, if you will, were saying, let's just get rid of the Mexicans.
Right.
We want them out of here.
And the mainstream there, that's where they understand about illegal immigrants.
Yeah, right. The illegal immigrant aspect of it was let's get rid of
police dealing with them.
Let's get rid of it. And then the idea with the homeless aspect of it was kind of like part of it, because they were part and parcel of that too, aspect of it. And many Oregonians, let's say in the city of Portland, would say, well, gee, if I could just get up tomorrow morning and I don't have to deal with these folks that are homeless, you know, throwing needles on my yards, you know, hypodermic needles and stuff like that, and they're not working. So everybody had their own definition about it. But that whole issue of the open the door, if you will.
Well, I think where the issues kind of cross. I think where the issues kind of cross as well is when you have local and state governments that are providing funding to illegal aliens. I call them illegal aliens myself because that's legally what they're defined as. Not illegal immigrants, not undocumented. Not
illegal aliens.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't sugarcoat basically
what
I do.
I know that.
But so I think where the two issues cross is the fact that local and state governments are providing funding and other resources to illegal aliens and not providing those funds that could be used to help the homeless issue. So that's where the issues cross, and at least from what I'm aware of.
And let's not forget, when one says illegal alien, they're not just talking to Mexican people. People tend to rather deal with that and throw that at the table. But no, hey,
anybody that's here illegally.
Right, and we got more illegal aliens crossing the border on the northern side from Canada than we have
those darn
in Mexico.
Canadians. Yeah.
See, a lot of folks
I'm joking,
they're not the problem.
Yeah, I'm joking.
But
I have Canadian friends, so don't worry about that.
But people don't talk about it that way. See, they just kind of like use the Mexicans, you know what I mean, to justify this is why we're doing it this way. But realistically, we've got a issue across the board. On the north side, in essence, we got a wall. They're trying to build a wall on the north side in Canada and trying to build a wall on the south side.
Build all around the country.
There you go. Well,
see, the thing is, I mean, when I take a look at this caravan here that's now in Tijuana, and I see that they basically came up from Honduras and Guatemala and Nicaragua, and they literally broke through the fence at the southern border of Mexico. So, I mean, they were literally breaking into Mexico, and yet these people want to come into our country and break into our country too, and so we can't allow that. Is what it is.
But you would agree though that when it first came out, they were just all Mexicans.
Well, I mean, they were from Honduras and Nicaragua and Guatemala. Yeah, they were traveling up through the country.
They were speaking Spanish. You know what I'm saying? It was Mexico.
Well,
Mexico was part. They were all part and parcel.
Yeah, Hispanic descent.
The whole deal.
So, yeah.
But then all of a sudden, the citizens in Mexico said, "Hey, wait a minute. We got too many folks here that are coming in here just taking over our deal and et cetera, taking our jobs."
What I'm kind of puzzled about too is, I mean, if they were coming up from Honduras and Nicaragua and other countries south of Mexico, why didn't they go into Texas? Because Texas is a lot shorter route than it is to, it's shorter to go from Honduras to the border of Texas than it is to go to Honduras to the border of California.
Right.
And so why didn't they take that route? It's still a U.S. border that goes along there.
Well, that's the desert portion, see.
Well,
and then the desert and the ocean.
Yeah.
See, I mean, 'cause, you know, when you go through, it's not as if to say, if Mexico had water between the ocean between the U.S. and Mexico, we wouldn't have that issue. Yeah. They walked all the way through. There was no boat. You didn't need it.
Well, I know, but it's a shorter distance to go from Honduras to Texas, the southern tip of Texas, as opposed to Honduras to the bottom of where California meets Mexico.
Okay, but I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But there's no I-5 there.
Well, yeah. But the point, I mean, I'm really I'm really struggling believing the media's narrative as well.
Yeah,
I mean, if these people walked thousands of miles,
right.
You know, it's just logistically impossible because, for one, how are you going to feed 5,000 people? Right. How are you going to house 5,000 people against inclement weather conditions? Mm-hmm. And it's like they're not. You see them on the news. I mean, you see CNN down there filming them and stuff like this. You know, where I guess the U.S. military started throwing tear gas or something like that, and these people look healthy and they're not emaciated, they're not underfed or anything like that. And so you got to think to yourself, who's funding this caravan to break into our country? And so, I mean, it's just a lot of questions I have, and a lot of the context it seems like it's taken out of context because, I mean, these people supposedly travel thousands of miles, yet they're somehow fully healthy and fully fed. And I mean, you do have some people that have tuberculosis, I think, like a third of them or something like that. But the point is, I mean, you have people here in the U.S. that are funding this illegal activity of this caravan coming in to break into our country. So.
But you do agree that we still are a country. We're very compassionate.
Well,
we're a very compassionate country.
But we're also a country of laws, too.
I know, but I understand that. Yeah, but we have laws here that people break.
Yeah.
And we don't enforce. You know, but the name of the game is that we're very compassionate. You know what I'm saying? When I saw a bunch of those folks, they had Nike shoes on.
They're taking advantage of that compassion, though, which is sad. Yes, but I mean, we are a country of immigrants, yes, but we are also a country of laws, and that's not my quote. That's a quote from Clinton in the '90s. So,
I'm agreeing with you, but however, Mexico, they weren't enforcing their laws. Right?
Yeah, they broke into Mexico.
But my point is that they weren't enforcing the laws.
Yeah, it's breaking and entering is what it is.
And in many ways, we weren't doing the same thing for a certain period of time. And even now, we may have the military, but the president said no guns. You know, I mean, he made reference, if you will, at some point in time. Said,
well, I think he also said shut down the border too.
Yeah, shut down the borders and whatever. So my point is that it's an issue.
Yeah.
See, so how do we deal? Good on it.
You both know that immigration issues, every country's issue, right? You go to countries like they have war, like in the Middle East. They do have, like, you go to Turkey, they have that issue. But I just feel like there's the mainstream media taking advantage of the language of President Trump, that the way he's describing them, they're like very inhumane, let's just say, right? I feel like there's this connection there.
Trump describing the media or the caravan coming in?
Well, caravan coming in and illegal immigrants coming to this country. President Trump started this trend of like making them inhuman and describing them as like, oh, they are the illegal killing people, rapists, and all of that. And
well, you do have MS-13, which is a fact, though. So I mean, there are MS-13 gang members. So.
I understand. I mean, they're humans. They have rapists, and they, like everybody else, like any other country. And there's rapists in this country, which they were born here, or they could be not even immigrants. It got nothing to. I just feel like for political gains, a lot of politicians, they just, and you, one of politicians, I don't mean to be disrespectful.
No
I just say
yeah.
You're in the
it's
the
okay.
business.
It's okay.
I have my own opinions. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and everybody has their own opinions. I just feel like politicians recently using terminologies that they, instead of finding solution, I'm not saying don't find solution, which was my next question, is like, so what's the solution? Or just shutting down the borders for illegal immigrants. In this country, and like I said, like a lot of countries has it. I was in Turkey, they have so many like Syrian refugees, and you go to Lebanon, they have like so many people from Palestine going to Lebanon and living there. However, when politicians talking, they're not making them those, you know, criminals that we need to get rid of them. You could talk about, just my opinion, you could talk about, you know, how to control the borders, but you don't have to make, because humans, they have all sorts of people. They're not all like bad people trying to, you know, or I mean, how, I don't know, just like.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes along with any issue you discuss in politics. Say, for example, gun control. I mean, you have one side saying, oh, guns are the enemy, we have to ban this, but you have my side or the other side saying, no, we have the right to keep and bear arms. And I believe in the Second Amendment myself. I carry around a Constitution myself with me, but I think it all comes down to personal choice, is what it is. I mean, it's not the gun that makes the decision to shoot someone. For example, on the gun control issue, it's the person holding the gun as a tool and using that to shoot someone negligently and basically murder them. But the point is, it comes down to personal choice. The people that are coming up from Honduras in this caravan are making the choice to break into Mexico and then try to break into the United States. Breaking and entering is a crime in the United States. So it's like the entitlement mindset and personal choice kind of combined. Like, the caravan thinks that they're entitled to citizenship, entitled to benefits here in the U.S., but they're not, because they, one, broke into Mexico, and two, they're trying to break into the United States. And so, as I said, we are a country of immigrants, but we are also a country of laws, but we need to follow laws, and those coming into the United States need to follow our laws if they want to be here legally. So,
but we must agree, though, at the same time, before it even started, and then, in fact, when it was announced the fact that these folks were getting together to come to the U.S. aspect of it and go through Mexico, it was the statement was also made as if they said Mexico said fine, just fine. It was just, you can just come on over. We'll accommodate you. We'll give you the foods and.
It's like they're accomplice in the crime.
Yeah,
is what it is.
but they were basically accepting that.
Yeah.
And then when they got
aiding and abetting, basically.
Then when they got here, aspect of it, then all of a sudden the politics sort of shifted a bit, and then the media just kind of started pushing the folks who were objecting to the folks coming in, so to speak. You got me?
Well, the media spins things basically because the media has a liberal bent to it. So,
But I would agree. I mean, you would think you would get the leaders from each of these countries and have them sit at the table.
You'd think, it makes sense.
But that didn't happen,
no,
right?
It didn't.
So again, it goes right back down is the money and the politics, and you got to get that discussion going.
Well, I mean, you have the governor. We see the governor, or not governor, but mayor of Tijuana, basically saying no. You know, these immigrants or these illegals are causing a problem in Tijuana. You know, he wants them gone, but he also sees that what President Trump's trying to do is say, no, we're not going to open the border to people that are trying to break into our country. And that's it. I don't sugarcoat. I'm a very direct guy, and I mean that's literally what it comes across to me as people coming up. They broke into Mexico. They're trying to break into the United States. Breaking and entering is a crime.
Okay. So now that they're in, what do we do in Oregon? And we, let's get back down to the subject here of Oregon. You know what I'm saying? The fact of the matter is that the sanctuary state thing, if you will, was not repealed. Okay.
Yeah.
So now they've said to the world and to the folks across the board, everywhere for that matter, we have a sanctuary state. In fact, many people in Oregon didn't even realize we had a sanctuary state until all of a sudden it got on the ballot.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You got me?
Yeah.
But now the definition of it is coming out. Now the thing is, but now people are just kind of like sitting in a relaxed mode, and then all of a sudden it's going to be almost like the Tijuana thing. All of a sudden people are going to start coming in floods and whatever, and then next thing you know, well, wait a minute, how'd they get in here? Well, wait a minute, we got a sanctuary state. We got a sanctuary state. So what do we do with these folks?
Well, I mean, it's
Well, you guys having that
the whole
discussion?
idea of a sanctuary state right now. I mean, it's illegal at the federal level. I
Okay.
mean, because they're breaking immigration laws.
Okay.
And so, what President Trump has tried in the past, and I think this is tied up in court right now. I think is what it is. Last I heard, is to cut federal funding to sanctuary cities and sanctuary states throughout the U.S.
And he's kind of sort of doing some of that in Oregon.
But the thing is, I mean, when you have a governor, our Governor Brown was reelected begrudgingly. But I mean, I didn't vote for Governor Brown, but I voted for Newt Bueller myself. And so when you have a governor that says, oh, she's going to include $2 million in the budget, her budget, which is composed of taxpayer dollars, i.e. coming from taxpayers like you and me and her, you know, she's going to include $2 million in that budget or more to fight President Trump. Well, that's what I don't want my tax dollars going to that. I support President Trump myself.
But to fight him about what?
To fight him over various issues that other states are signing on to.
What about
it's like the whole resistance movement.
But what about the sanctuary state thing? And again, we talk
that's one of them. That's one of them. Okay. I mean, if Trump said he's going to cut off funds to sanctuary states and cities, right? Well, Oregon is a sanctuary state, and so obviously Governor Brown doesn't want her funds cut off because it'll affect her budget. Well, the thing is, I mean, if she's using that money to fight President Trump, it's like, okay, so the federal government is giving money to fight the federal government. It doesn't make any sense to me.
But what if you took that $2 million and said, okay, fine, we got the Meal and Wheels program that all of a sudden we've cut here in Multnomah County. We've cut the Meals on Wheels. This is basically feeding the poor and whatever, this, that, and the other.
So it's going to the wrong priorities, basically. She's using it to fight President Trump when it could be going to fund Meals on Wheels. It could be going to pay for veterans' health care.
Is that politically? Is she going to be buying ads to say, hey, jumping on, playing the same
I think it's mostly just lawsuit support is what it is. She'll probably sign.
Lawsuit. Okay, going through the state.
Yeah.
The state, Attorney General or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, cool. Okay, all right.
But I still don't want my taxpayers going to fight a president that I happen to admire.
So what would you do for the $2 million? If you had the $2 million, and what would you do with that $2 million?
Well, I mean, I'd fund the veterans. I mean, as you know, both my parents were Navy. My wife is a Coast Guard veteran. I mean, you're a Vietnam veteran yourself, and
reach out to veterans.
I see what happened to the veterans over the years, especially down there in Phoenix when the people were literally dying on the waiting list. And so I would fund veterans health care, and I would fund creating solutions for the homeless, for example. I wouldn't fund it to, as I said, fight President Trump, because I think she's going to be doing it wrong. And you can bet that I'm going to be down there at that legislature, and every time they talk about that bill in terms of her budget, $2 million to fight President Trump, I'm going to be going down there. I'm going to testify against it, and I'll testify against it very passionately, because basically I don't want my tax dollars to going to fight a president that I happen to like.
But you will have something that says, okay, fine, for this $2 million, I think you need to spend it over here.
Exactly.
That would be the way of fighting in a positive way aspect of it.
I mean, you can hammer Kate Brown all day if you want, but unless you provide solutions.
Yeah, that's the key.
Then the key is providing solutions on how to reallocate that money. I'll give you another example. I think the city of Portland basically set aside some money to help with immigration cases, And last time I checked, all the potholes in Portland weren't filled. And all the roads are still in disrepair, and there's still homeless sleeping on the streets. Yet they're allocating money to fight illegal immigration cases and stuff like that. And again, that's just a mismanagement of funds. It's corruption. It's a mismanagement of funds.
I think, again, that same $2 million, I'm just throwing some ideas out.
Well,
as I ran for county at the same time, we had the Wapato thing here in the city of Portland, and they were looking for some housing for homeless aspect of it, and they had this building that the public money spent about $100 million, and they put it into surplus, and they sold the building for $5 million. See,
and now they're if they can't, they don't want to use it, they're going to bulldoze it.
And I'm sitting there saying they shouldn't have sold the building. Maybe that $2 million could have been, i.e., set aside for that. Basically, the city or the state could have bought the building for the $5 million
and done something
productively for homeless. I'm just again thinking about this opening it up sanctuary state, because more folks are going to be here, and are the folks that are already here right? The folks that are already here who are homeless and looking for shelter aspect of it. And again, we're talking about solutions. That's what we got to do. Because politically, I don't think the parties are still going to be fighting one another, back and forth routine. Yeah. And then the $2 million is just going to go under the table somewhere.
Well, it's about action. I mean,
no one's going to ask, where is the money? And what happened to the money?
Actions speak louder than words, and you have a lot of politicians out there that don't take action. They're just all talk, and that's what frustrates me the most. And I know I've ran for office before myself, and I hate to be lumped in with the politicians that are just all talk.
I know that.
I'm more action focused. I'm more
Let's get Naskha in. What do you think, Naskha?
So what I don't understand, why we cannot have money for both projects. Let's say we already have illegal immigrants here and we have to do something about it, because sending them back, I think it just doesn't make sense in my opinion. And then you have homelessness. Why solutions cannot be for both projects? Why it has to be like tying it up to homelessness or immigrants, this or that? Like can we just focus on solutions, let's say on immigrants here right now and on both projects? Like my understanding, Portland has immigration issues and also homelessness, but the homelessness, they have not done much other than providing shelters for homeless, not going to the root of problem.
Exactly. And they're fighting the symptoms as opposed to the cause.
Why do we have this? What's next? And what's the short-term solution, long-term solution? Where are we going to go from there?
Good point.
Including immigration. So to me, when I look at the issues, like I understand why it has to be either this or that, because I think you mentioned a couple of times.
Yeah, I think it's limited resources, I think is what it comes down to. So.
Why don't we hold it at this point? We're going to take a short break, and we'll come back to you with reference to responding to her question.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. We'll take a short break, folks. We'll be right back.
You are watching Oregon Voters Digest. This program can be seen again on these channels on these dates and times. Tell a friend.
You got folks from all over the country. Okay, I guess we're back, folks. Boy, this has been so interesting. We didn't even take a break. We took a short break, but we kept the discussion going. Now we got to get it right back on course again. Aspect of it. But Naskha had asked a question or so in regards to. I'll let you
funding,
repeat your piece.
The funding. Why we cannot focus on finding solutions for homelessness and also immigration issues, especially for those immigrants already, illegal immigrants already in this state. Talking about Oregon,
right. About Oregon.
Well, I think it comes down to limited resources. I think it comes down to the mindset of Oregonians don't really like their taxes raised. I know I don't like my taxes raised. I believe in kind of less government equals more freedom. So the more taxation you have, the more money that's coming out of my pocket. That's less money that I can spend on my family. I can't build a business with it if it's going to the government via taxation. So I think that's kind of the general mindset of Oregonians, and we don't want to be taxed to death. And I think that's where it comes down to the tough decisions. And I think we need to focus on one problem at a time. And I know that state government and local government needs to focus on multiple problems at a time, but we need to focus on some of the big ones that we haven't solved that are affecting the most people that are here legally and that are citizens and that basically vote legally. Yeah, exactly. We need to focus on that first.
Right.
And I mean, yes, there is the illegal immigration problem, but we need to focus on our own citizens.
Well, when
first.
you were debating, and let's see, you were running against, that was District 5.
I was running for Congress in Oregon's 5th Congressional District.
And you were running against an incumbent. His name was
Kurt Schrader. Yeah.
Kurt Schrader. And well, when you guys had a debate, were you discussing something like this?
Yeah.
Was that brought to the table?
I mean, yeah.
Well, how did Kurt respond to it?
Well, he's kind of on the other side from me in terms of immigration.
Okay.
Well, I'll give you an example. He brought an illegal alien to the State of the Union address.
Oh, what?
And illegal alien in the State of the Union. So it's basically, yeah, exactly. So he and I are on different sides of the issue. He's more on the Democrat kind of liberal side. I'm more on the Republican conservative side. I think is that if you're going to be here, you got to be here legally.
Oh, wait a minute. That might have been a pretty good idea. So you're saying that he adopted one? He took one home?
Well, no, he didn't. He didn't adopt one.
He took one
brought
home
him to the State of the Union
Kurt
address.
Schrader took one home with him. Boy, now that's an example. I think that's the direction we should go. I think that if we can get, let's see, how many are we going to be? Let's see.
I can't back that up.
What would be our portion? Maybe 20,000? If we can get 20,000, with 20,000?
Yeah, get 20,000 Democrats to adopt illegal aliens.
That's right.
Sure, bring them into their home.
But the idea is 20,000 from illegal aliens that way, but also another 40,000 who are here locally right now. See, so we can get 60,000 people. And he could maybe rally for that piece.
Yeah.
To take one home with him.
Idea.
Yeah,
That's more. It's more action than words.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And the idea is, we never worry about the taxpayer. See, they would assume that responsibility. You know what I mean? They'd pay for it. When you think so, when you think like that, Jay?
Why don't they lead by example?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Well, did you guys did you share that with him?
We didn't. I don't think we talked about that particular topic.
Well, now you can talk to him a little bit. Just tell him exactly, because he, you're living in that district anyway.
Yeah.
You can suggest to him now that the one that he's got right now, he's example. So we can
adopt an illegal alien.
Yeah, bring him on the show. We'll bring him on the show, Zada. You got me? With his illegal alien, and say, this is what I'm doing.
I have to bring.
I'm picking up the whole tab. I've constructed another part of the house, another room for my my guests, right? I'm picking up the tab for everything, and then, the medical and all this other good stuff. You got me? And I'm out of pocket, maybe because I think what are their salaries running up there as a congressperson?
I think it's like 174,000.
174,000.
Yep.
But he's going to devote half of his money towards it's one person, right?
Sounds like a plan.
I think that's a plan.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
I think it's
Kurt. You understand that, right, Kurt?
I think it's so nebulous because politicians they talk and talk, but they don't take action. They don't lead by example. So if Kurt really wants the illegal aliens here, let's go to his house. He lives out on a big farm in Canby, and then I think he actually has a farm out there where he harvests. I don't know what he harvests out there, but I mean, I think it's hops or something like that. But the point is, if he wants illegal aliens here, let's bring them to his house out in Canby. I mean, they can live there off of his farm.
Or if not that, and I'll be willing to maybe negotiate. Make a deal. Maybe he can take some of the homeless over there, and do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Housing and.
Same thing with Ted Wheeler. Why don't we have the homeless go over to Ted Wheeler's house and just camp out on his lawn?
And he's got money too. He's got money.
But he won't allow that. You can't have that homeless camping on the mayor's lawn.
Well, that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's one of the things I can appreciate with reference to your running. I mean, you were open, if you will, for those kind of discussions.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to see what's going on.
Think outside the box too.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So, what other issues are you working on other than sanctuary?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of a private citizen now. I did lose the election. I did get about 150,000 votes or close to it. And I did call and congratulate Kurt for winning. He got about 47,000 more votes than I did in District 5. So we did the best we could. I'm kind of gone back into private life now. I'm trying to focus on my career and my family.
Yep, you got to eat.
You got to eat. Yeah.
Said that at the beginning.
You got to eat. You got to eat.
You got to pay the bills.
I got a couple teenage daughters myself.
They got to go to school.
14, 16.
Oh my God.
I think they're past the dad is uncool phase now.
Yes.
So, but
my daughter's the same, 13, and I'm like, I'm uncool. What happened to that?
They're mellowing out. I'm really proud of my oldest. She has she's my entrepreneur. She goes down to Goodwill and buys jeans and refurbishes them and then sells them on I think like Poshmark or something like that.
Nice.
Cool. But my youngest is really into sports. So.
But you know, the point. I'm gonna throw this out on the table. That notice now it's over with, right? So people just forget.
Yeah, see?
For another 2 years.
For another 2 years, you forget, and you get more people that are homeless on the street.
Yeah.
These folks need jobs. They got to eat too. You got me? And so you need a solution, because otherwise, the solution, the way we're acting, is that we increase the taxes on the people who are working.
But that's not the solution.
No, but it's not.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what happens.
Yes.
And the people who are paying the taxes don't realize that when the taxes go up, it's to kind of do something, whether it be police work, law enforcement, or this and that. And then you get another group that's anti that solution. Like, the old ICE thing. We don't want anybody arrested when as a homeless person is concerned. If they break in the house or this, that, and the other, don't worry about it. Just let them
it's little by little by little.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the evil of progressivism is basically what it is, because basically, I mean, the best analogy that I can think of is what I refer to as the frog in the pot scenario. So if you start out with a frog in a pot where the water's cold and stuff like that, right? Well, I mean, and you gradually increase the temperature, eventually the frog's going to fry and be killed. Right. So I think that's the same analogy that I can use with taxation as well. I mean, gradually you increase the tax, you increase the tax, you increase the tax, and finally we're paying most of our income to taxation to corrupt politicians at both the state and local levels. And so I think that's, to answer your question again, in regards to why we can't do both. I think that, as I said, Oregonians don't want their taxes raised to the point where they can't support their family, run their own businesses, is what it is. And I agree with that. So I agree with limited taxation. So
are we running it in a way, and a lot of times people would say in the civics class, the U.S. government is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Not just a few people. You got me?
Yeah.
And what's happening with that?
Well, I mean, as I said, it seems like power is being concentrated.
They got the money, and they control the whole piece.
Exactly. I mean, when I ran, I know I didn't have near the funding that Kurt Schrader had.
Right.
And I did the best I could with the resources I have. I got out there every single night of the week.
I know that.
Was out there doing debates, eating the fast food on the road,
that's why we had him
changing into the campaign suit in the McDonald's bathroom, But I did what I could, and I think we made a really good showing of it. But I mean, you are correct, though. It does kind of come down to money and resources in terms of what you can actually advertise and market yourself with.
See, first off, he's already eaten. See,
that's good.
He's already eaten.
Oh yeah.
And then he's got someone else over here that's willing to support him because they get more money to eat. See, it's always about eating. It's about the money, but it's eating.
Well, I think he wants to focus on solutions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, because, in all due respect, when I invited him to come over after you came on, he said, "Hey, I don't care. I could care less."
Kurt didn't come on, or
no, I get
you see what I'm saying? I don't have to deal with that piece. I'm eating regularly every day.
Yeah, I have the job.
You see what I'm saying? I got the job, and the people who are giving me the money,
I think part of the motivation
they want to increase their money.
I think part of the motivation, though, at least it was for me, is staying hungry, staying challenged, and kind of fighting for everything you get, I guess.
Right.
I think that's what really motivated me on the campaign trail and talking to folks and stuff like this. And I met a lot of nice folks out there on the campaign trail, and I mean, who knows what the future brings, know? So
yeah. Well, I think it's important, and I think even the election process, from the standpoint when a person files for office, all you do is put your name and pay the fee. You don't have to put down there, what are you going to do? Or if not, if there were listed issues in the state of one from your office, and then the idea is for you to comment on it.
Anybody can be on the application.
Yeah, anybody can come. Anybody, Mickey Mouse can be on there. You can change your name.
And people have voted for Mickey Mouse too.
You can change your name to Mickey Mouse and just put the feet out, and you'll get some votes. Yeah. So it's kind of like, we're running away from the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. They don't have the access. Now we got media on both sides, so to speak.
And media takes sides.
And they just take sides, and the money takes sides. It always goes down who's eating. Those people who are on media on both sides, they're eating well every day. They're all 6 and 7 figures. Think about it, all those reporters. I mean, when you see these reporters, I mean, after they get through laughing and this, that, and the other, boom, it's a game. But they're eating every day.
Yeah.
Their job's not dependent upon solutions. Their job is dependent upon disagreement.
Yeah.
So my question for both of you, what's the solution for that? How to make our politicians and political system more solution-oriented instead of just I'm going to be elected, and then seems that's what you meant, right?
Well, but he's a politician.
Right.
And so I'm like you. I've been saying that, but now you're here.
Well,
that's going to help me. That's going to help me out a little bit. I'm glad you're making the same statement. that makes it good. Now, what do we do?
You are in this situation almost a lot.
I think the key is to actually suggest things and implement is what you have to do, and not just say things just to say things.
Keep politicians accountable.
Exactly.
So what's the best system?
Well, see, the thing is that once they get in there, I mean, they're held accountable at election time every 2 years, and I mean, I saw it. You know, Kurt basically got out there on the trail. I hadn't actually seen him for like 2 years. So he got out there on the trail the last 2 months of the campaign, and was out there getting photo ops and stuff like that, you know. And but I never heard him once say anything about tolling here in the Portland area. I mean, I heard him say things like, "Oh well, we can't have the sea lions eating the salmon in Willamette Falls area," you know, but the point is, I mean, he's not talking about things that actually people care about. Yeah. And so I'm talking about things like, no, I don't want the Detroit Lake drained because it's going to affect the water supply of Salem. No, I don't want tolling because people are just going to use the side roads to get around the tolling. But yet, from what I saw when I was running against Kurt, is that he didn't actually get to the meat and potatoes of the issues, because he just kind of wanted to coast in there, you know. And I mean, I was talking about the meat and potatoes of the issues myself. I actually went on a radio show called Meat and Potatoes, but the point, so it was back in Massachusetts. But the point is, I mean, I talked about the issue, and it's like it didn't matter because Kurt knew that he had the numbers of voters in the district to actually win, and that's why he didn't want to actually say anything that people could later use against him and hold him accountable for. What I did during the campaign, though, is I looked at his voting record. I looked up Ballotpedia. I looked up the U.S. Congressional voting record. I held him to his voting record on things like abortion, on things like he voted against Kate's Law. Kate Steinle was the lady that was killed by the illegal alien down in the Bay Area. I held him to that because he voted against Kate's Law. I held him to his voting record, and I think that actually captured some of the interest in my campaign because I was holding him accountable. It's my job to hold him accountable. I am a constituent of his now, and I was then as well. But the point is, around election time, you have to hold politicians accountable to their voting record, and that's what I tried to do.
But you didn't have enough money to buy enough media.
Well, I mean,
to get the word out.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, to educate.
I mean, I had the message. I mean, I had the research team. I had the message. I knew both personal and professional things about him that I could have put out there. But I know if I would have put it out there, he would have fired back, and I didn't have the money to fight the fire back.
You know, in all due respect, you know, that's the difference between community television and commercial television.
Yeah.
Okay. On this side, the lobbyists and this, it's not all just Kurt's fault.
Yes.
We've made a business out of politics.
Exactly, yeah. It's an industry.
It's an industry aspect of it. And so we got to get back to the solution piece to answer your question.
Which everybody avoiding.
Exactly, yeah.
Most of it.
And by the way, that's worldwide, because we're teaching the folks that are going back to the Kurdish folks and the whole and the other. We're teaching them here in our classes. They get a degree in it. Then they go back and they do the same thing. And I think that's one of the problems we're having worldwide, if you will, because the bottom line is folks are saying, okay, fine. They all kind of get together and say, let's just standardize this thing. Yes. You got me? And so it's a business.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a business. But we're becoming more too sophisticated. For instance, you know, we got a situation where everybody has guns in this country. I mean, everybody has guns.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to maintain some sense of humanity and some compassion, because you can't have people just looking at another person just because of their color, their skin, or their language, or you know, anything along that particular line. We're getting away from the humanity aspect of it, you know, in many ways.
It's very impersonal.
Yeah, very much so. So that's why it's so important for community television like here. You know, so we're not a commercialized product. We're talking just common sense stuff. You get me? And that's so good about this piece. Whereas on the other hand, if we'd be making breaks for all kind of products and whatever. And I bring that point up because as I was driving over here, they were talking about the pharmaceutical industry. And how this one particular pill for which is hepatitis C was $1,000 a pill, and it was a life pill. Got my point? But if you couldn't afford the $1,000, You have to have one of two options. Either the government pays for it, which is the taxpayer. You got me? Or you die. That's it. You have no other option. You got to either pay for it. If you don't have the money, if you can't get the government to pay for it, you're gone.
Well, what causes
$1,000 a piece, and the justification on it was kind of interesting. It was on NPR, and the justification on the other side was, well, you know, we got the lights got to come on, and we got to do the experimenting, we got to do this and this, that, and the other.
Is that what causes that pill to be $1,000, or is it the 10 years required of R&D to basically get the patents required? So a company has to sit on it for 10 years while they're waiting for the FDA to approve it for human use.
Well, that's what they say.
Yeah. So basically that's 10 years of income on that same pill, that $1,000 pill, that can't be utilized in that 10 years while they're waiting on it. So, I mean...
When they threw out the numbers on $1,000 a pill, and that's something like, some people were talking about $85,000 a year. $85,000, and you multiply that by 10, that's $850,000.
Nearly $1 million, yeah.
That's just 10. You multiply that by another 100. You seeing where I'm coming from? And you've got thousands of people that are going to be dependent upon this pill, and people are dying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some heavy stuff, and
Comes down to the money, basically.
And then a lot of times these pills, if anything, they're quote developed through our institutional system.
Yeah, taxpayer money.
Yeah, taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
That's why they give grants to these colleges, if you will. And they're working on that piece. They discover it, but what they do, they discover it, and then they basically, I'll graduate now, and I'll go over here and work another company or open up another company. And then all of a sudden, now where did they get the education? They got the education from my education system.
Yep.
See, so I think that, again, here we go talking about the humanity. People could care less about it. I hate to put it that way.
Comes down to the dollar. Yeah.
I feel like media is dishonest when it comes to a lot of issues, and you mentioned gun control. Like both sides, when they argue, they just argue for political gain, not solutions. Again, it's the same problem, which I'm about to lose my mind. That's why I start my own show, because Middle East politics, you go to Oregon politics, you go anywhere. It's the same. That they're not honest. Like you talk about, don't give one side. It's like they're not making it clear. So to make it human, they make it more politics and divided. So that makes it more complicated.
So we need things that bring us together as opposed to actually separating us.
Yes. Like I have seen two people talking about gun control, saying the same thing, but they don't agree with each other, and they vote for different laws and people because of that. I'm like, you both agree that a mentally ill person shouldn't have a gun, right? Should be some kind of regulations, right? It's common sense, kind of. Like if somebody is like medically diagnosed with
mentally ill,
and there should be a paper say, hey, you're not allowed to buy a gun until your condition is better. You're not supposed to have. I have friends, they have guns, they're not mentally stable, and they're diagnosed clinically, and then you just scary. But then it's like when I listen to gun control discussions, it's so dishonest. Like you don't know how, it's frustrating for a person. I'm like, I'm trying to find solutions, see the solutions, but we're not having this discussion for some reason. I don't know.
Well, it's good you're going to be
maybe politicians like you come
there you go. I like that.
And they bring in more solutions. You're like, hey, regardless of my political background, I want solution. I don't want just to be identified as this, voted for Trump or something. Actually, I'm going to listen to both sides, and I'm going to look.
Well, that's something that I was talking about on the campaign trail myself. I mean, I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative, yes, but I was out there. If I would have won it, I would be representing everyone, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of social division, in the district.
Okay,
and so
I got to stop you right now. We got to wrap it up. We got about 24 seconds or whatever. But hey, hasn't it been great?
Oh yeah, I think it's been great.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. You're going to do well.
Thank you, Naskha.
Mark, again, it's going to be good.
Oh, thank you.
You're running now, too.
Well, I
yes, you're running. You're running.
I gotta make that decision. Yeah.
We got to have him back on, Naskha. Okay, good enough. Folks, thank you very much for joining us. And hey, tell your friends and whatever, tune in to Oregon Voters Digest. Go to YouTube.